guys, it's your friendly neighborhood host, that guy Frankie, yours truly, coming at you with a brand new video, one that's been a little difficult trying to make because this is a video that I've been wanting to make and I've been meaning to make. It's just been tough trying to figure out how to get it out there, how to get it made essentially. And I figure now is the time to do a one-on-one talking directly to the camera like I'm talking to you guys and gals out there, rather than it being just me reading off my microphone or me talking into my microphone, reading off my script, using character stills that countless friends have made for me, including my partner. Thank you. A lot of you guys have been asking me when I'm going to do one, and like I said, now's the best time. I'm terrified doing this because I think I look like a hideous fucking chud in comparison to Bizarro, but I feel like it's necessary for me to do this because it not only makes it feel genuine, but it gets my thoughts and my views across when it comes to talking about Superman. And I have to say, I wasn't the biggest fan growing up. I didn't understand why people had this hyperfixation towards him, because I always thought that Superman was boring, and then it didn't really help with the Zack Snyder films or the portrayals in the Justice League. And while I love the Justice League film, I do think that Man of Steel and the Justice League film kind of did a character assassination on the Superman character and his mythos. I think that it's just a bad depiction of the character. Superman, from my understanding, now that I've picked up a lot of books, whether it was Red and Blue, Absolute Superman, and even All-Star, Superman's supposed to be this fun, corny, lovable guy that'll basically make everybody's problems his because he has the whole weight of the world on his shoulders. He can't have a normal life, kind of like my boy Spider-Man out there. But even then, Clark doesn't mind because he hopes for a better tomorrow. He hopes for the world to be better, and he wants to see the best in people. He'll make anybody's problem his, whether it's saving a cat from a tree, not letting a squirrel get run over, even saving some kids from a fucking burning fire and shit. Anything that a normal superhero would do, but he just adds more steps to it. And I think that James Gunn, not only is he saving the DC universe from all the shit that has been going on in the recent years, I do think that he undid everything that Zack Snyder and them did to the character and restored the balance as to who Superman is supposed to be. I think James Gunn saved Superman, and I want you guys to understand that. I want you guys to see my thoughts as to why James Gunn saved Superman. When it comes to the world of spandex-wearing superheroes, there's a ton of media for fans to delve into, and that's ranging from animated adaptations, the original source material being comics, to even live-action features of their beloved characters.
Cool costume.
Thanks. My mom made it for me.
Oftentimes, there'll be really good shows. A few times, however, it can be pretty bad and make you question just what the hell is happening in the writer's room or with the production.
Oh God.
And sometimes, if they're lucky enough, there tends to be a cult following for some of these shows to even get a revival at some point.
Groovy.
But in the case of Superman, there's always been this debate about which film is the best out of all the adaptations, or which actor portrays Superman to the very best. For years, I've seen people have such a passionate discussion saying that nobody could ever top Christopher Reeves, or Henry Cavill just embodies the Man of Steel more. But for me, even before David Cornsweet's debut as Superman, the only Superman or character like him to really stand and gravitate for me was Tom Welling in Smallville. Granted, I know the show has aged poorly in some areas with questionable writing given it's the 2000s, but there was something about this show that behind its corniness, behind all of its quirks, it knew and understood the character of both Clark Kent and Superman. While Superman isn't in that show, he does become Superman during the final episode, but it's more about learning to be the superhuman, the superhero aspect of that, and I love how the show tackled that subject matter. Because whenever people mention Superman, they almost never bring up or mention Clark Kent, which is insane because although Clark is Superman, they're two different characters, much like Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Tom Welling, to me, played an empathetic young Clark in Smallville, and given that this was a CW show targeted towards teens, it was like lightning in a bottle for them. Again, some stuff may not have aged well, but even with its early episodes, including the pilot, Clark would put himself in harm's way to save his friends and people who bullied him that didn't even deserve to be saved. David not only embodies the character perfectly, but gives hope and shows what Superman truly is and means. In Gunn's fresh take, we are not only reintroduced to a kind, compassionate, and empathetic hero, but there is no stoicism or dark, gritty areas we as fans have seen in other media like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. I will let you know right now, I respect Zack's work, and I love that he got his 4-hour cut feature when he was screwed over by Warner Bros. But the more I look back at his take of Superman, like I said earlier, it just doesn't work for me. I don't think it works. Born with godlike powers, yet in his portrayal, I can't get behind that approach because he feels almost too flawless and doesn't get involved with problems until later on. Whereas James Gunn throws Clark into the fire and comes back beaten and worn out again and again, making him human. The cool thing about this take as well is that this is Superman 3 years into his job. This is a movie that didn't want to take the same approach other films and other media have done, where they show us an origin story over and over. It's been done to death.
God! For the love of God!
Although Superman is an alien with superhuman abilities, we get to see a more vulnerable Superman. One who would do anything to save the people, including the animals around him, because to him, it's the right thing to do. Going back to discussing how Clark and Superman are two different characters, it's both bold and stunning to see Clark act the way he does, and justify why Superman needs to save people, and although it can be reckless, such as the war happening between Boravia and Jorhanpur, through the eyes of Clark Kent, we see why Superman gets involved, why he has to get involved. Boravia is portrayed as this ruthless dictatorship that's invading their peaceful neighbor, arming themselves with the best money Luthor Corps can buy, while the people of Jorhanpur are armed with only pitchforks. Clark lets us know that Superman wouldn't stand for the innocent being stepped on and pushed out by bullies, let alone slaughtered, and act like nothing had happened. I know it's annoying to compare the two, but the amount of times that cult Snyder fans have attacked this film's take, it's fair and safe to say that this Superman is far better and more for the people. Whereas Snyder wrote his to be on the sidelines, he was the hero they didn't deserve, essentially detached. No matter in what take, no matter what story, some people, even in that adaptation, are going to fear this superhuman because he's not from this world and he has abilities like no other and could possibly use them for evil, so it gives them a right, almost an understanding to be scared. But it's the way that they made Superman and Man of Steel that just never really sat right with me. Many people died because of Superman, whether it was his fight against Zod and buildings falling in. Granted, I know that that was collateral damage at that point, but even then, this Superman, James Gunn's Superman, stands out from what Man of Steel did. James Gunn's Superman will literally get in harm's way to prevent anything from happening. He doesn't just sit around and let humanity deal with its own problems. I understand for some that they love these dark and grounded characters, but for a character like Superman, he doesn't need to be dark because he isn't meant to be. And that's what I love about James Gunn's direction, his approach to the Superman character, to the Superman mythos. The fact that even when humanity turns on Superman, he still fights for them because it's the right thing to do. The coolest part of this film is Clark's origin story. For years I thought he was just sent to Earth to be their savior and help them, but the fact that there's different stories to choose from is what surprised me, because when Gunn and co chose to have Clark's story centered more as being the ruler of Earth versus the savior as intended, it was a shocking twist. With this new origin story approach, it fits the film, as it just adds more on Clark. It adds more weight to him because of his identity crisis, trying to put together what Superman really is and what it means at this point. Because after finding out that he wasn't sent to Earth to be their savior, the protector, and to only be a ruler and hurt people, it's just mind-boggling. Rather than just sitting by, letting his problems eat at him, he still finds his way. He still finds that the right thing to do is to help the people of this planet, help the people of Metropolis and all over, to protect them. And that's also why I think that Superman as a movie, this movie specifically, it just works. While many may be quick to judge and call it just good or mediocre, I think it's actually one of the best films that DC Comics has had to offer recently since the Suicide Squad 2 and the Batman. Hell, I'd go as far as to say that this could be just as game-changing like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
Come on! Open your eyes!
James Gunn's Superman almost feels like the blueprint as to what superhero movies need to be, again, rather than just rushing out shared universes and building onto that. Why not just do a film like this and then just wait? Take your time. You don't have to rush a shared universe. At a time right now, currently, when our world is struggling with so much stuff going on, Superman is essentially just like it was back in the 30s. A beacon of hope. This movie spreads various messages of hope and kindness to one another, bringing people together almost like a community, doing good things, and good things happen. As the prophet Hickey once said, Superman feels like how a comic book movie should be, even with all of its quirks. This film has a sadistic villain, like Lex Luthor, who at times may seem comical with his rage-bait actions. Yet, there's more than meets the eye with Lex Luthor. Lex is always shown as being one step ahead of Superman and wants nothing more but to bring him down and tear him apart. The hero that people will worship and champion. Lex doesn't see Superman as this gifted alien from another planet sent to help humans. He sees him as power over man. Dangerous. Lex does so much to try and get rid of Superman, whether it's corrupting the engineer by giving her nanites to make her a super soldier, make her the perfect weapon, to creating a clone of Superman to just fight and brutalize him, to even going as far as to starting a war, and to turning the people of Metropolis against their beloved hero. Lex is the biggest hater and worst villain, but don't even get me started on how he kills a man who literally just gave Superman food. He's willing to go that extra mile to show that he means business. Lex Luthor comes off like a three-dimensional character rather than being miscast, like Jesse Eisenberg in Batman vs. Superman. Now, I'm not saying that Jesse Eisenberg was terrible. I do feel that it was more of a miscast because that dude just looks like he was meant to play the Riddler over someone like Lex Luthor. This film even has more emotion than the previous DC films in the previous universe. There's more weight. You feel everything going on. The color palette is a lot more prettier. Well, those films visually didn't even strike. This film is so colorful that the color grading has been the best we've seen in a Superman movie in years. Everything just fits right in. The film even uses its supporting cast in ways I never thought imaginable. Mr. Terrific steals every scene he's in, and it's not just because he has a killer soundtrack, a killer playlist, but because he's a badass the entire time. Hell, Nathan Fillion, even with an Edgar haircut, is the best possible Green Lantern, at least in live action standards. Hawkgirl literally kills a bigot, a dictator, because she says that she isn't like Superman and will kill assholes that need to die. The film even turns a weird character like Metamorpho into possibly one of this film's best gems. He goes from being a prisoner of Luthor that uses his powers, his abilities, to torture Superman only because he fears for his son, Joey, being killed. Almost forgot to mention, the CEO of Sex for DC Universe, Jimmy Olsen, actually has way more screen time and doesn't even die in his debut, unlike Batman vs. Superman. Did I forget to mention Lois Lane? I feel like I did. Lois is also amazing in this film. While I prefer Bitty Tulloch in Superman and Lois, Rachel did a great job as the investigative journalist and partner of both Clark and Superman. 1 minute she'll test Clark by asking questions that the media is going to ask Superman in order to get a reaction out of him, to paint him as an idiot, a buffoon, a superhero with all these powers that can only cause so much chaos and destruction because he doesn't think things through and only thinks for himself, not the whole world, at least in their eyes. Many might think of the scene as toxic or just too much coming from Lois, but there's a reason why she did it, and it's because she loves Clark, she loves Superman, she wants to protect him, she wants him to think before he speaks. That way, nothing is taken out of context. Lois Lane obviously did this because she doesn't want people to view Superman the way that Lex Luthor views him, as a villain. She wants them to view Superman as the man he is, Metropolis's own protector and savior. Even when the people of Metropolis turned their backs on Superman, he still thought that the right thing to do was to save them. He even saves Metropolis and the whole world because of Lex Luthor nearly destroying it out of a pocket dimension that he himself created. James Gunn made these characters shine and relatable like he's always done, whether it was projects like Guardians of the Galaxy, The Suicide Squad 2, Peacemaker, and hell, even the Creature Commandos. James Gunn just knows what to do with the outcasts, the misfits, the punks. He knows how to write characters that make them feel important. Granted, they may be a bit silly, but they're actually shown to care and help. And that's what they do. These characters help Clark during his identity crisis moment that is part of the plot in this movie. Without them, I honestly don't think the world would have been saved. I think it would have been grim if Superman just stayed on the sidelines. But Gunn's take of John and Martha Kent definitely needs to be studied because of their sheer impact alone in this story drives Clark's character progression. With the little amount of time that they had on screen, they still manage to steer Clark in the right direction to make him Superman. After the world had found out the true intentions of Jor-El sending Kal to Earth, thanks to Lex finding the video, and Clark was crushed when he found out the intent of the original message. Struggling with himself, not being able to cope, and thinking that he was in fact a monster because he was sent to hurt people, only for John to act like an actual father and console him, letting him know that he's proud of the man he is, that his choices and his actions make him who he is, and letting him know that he's not a villain or an evil person, but his son. This scene hit me because it reminded me of Uncle Ben having conversations with Peter Parker, whether it was in Raimi's film or Mark Webb's, and it's an emotional scene. Compared to Costner and Diane Lane though, no fault to them, but they honestly didn't give any hope, nor do I think that they shaped Clark Kent into the hero that we all know. Even for the little amount of time that both Martha and John are on this movie, they do a whole lot more than the Snyder approach. Before I end this video, no, I have been bashing the Snyderverse to an extent on this video, and I do apologize, but I do feel like that movie did do some major injustices on Superman as a whole, and I think you guys definitely need to watch James Gunn's Superman and see why David Corenswet is honestly one of the best Superman actors right now. This film actually shows Superman struggling, getting his ass whipped nearly any time he's on screen with any of the bad guys. It shows an emotional Superman, not one that's stoic, not one that just sits on the sidelines, but one that actually cares and wants to save everybody without killing anybody. And that's just because of his message: truth, justice, and a better tomorrow.
'Cause